Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. Father-to-be of quintuplets learns a horrible truth the day of his children's birth. For as long as he could remember, Paul Servat always wanted a family of his own. So when he found a soulmate in Barbara Bienvenue, he couldn't wait to begin a life with her. And that included having kids. When Bienvenue announced that she was pregnant with quintuplets, Servat couldn't have been more thrilled. But strange things began to happen during her 9-month pregnancy. Then, on the day of the birth, no one could have imagined what she had to say, making Servat wish he'd never met her. He lived and worked in Montreal, and while loving friends and family surrounded him, something was missing. He was in his mid-30s, working 6 days out of the week, and was single. Looking around at his loved ones, he realized he wanted someone to spend his life with. He wanted a family of his own. Recognizing that he wanted a lot more than what he currently had, Servat decided it was time to make a lifestyle change. With many of his friends and family happily married and having children, Servat realized he wanted the same thing for himself. And he was finally at the point in his life where he was ready to take the first step. He was on a stable career path, even if it took a lot of his time, healthy and ready to find someone to settle down with. Now came the hard part. In order to find his other half, Servat had to step out of his comfort zone. Servat threw himself into the dating world with online apps. Can you guess what happened next? Thankfully, technology makes it fairly simple for people to meet other singles in the area. There are multiple telephone applications to sign up for, depending on your preferences and a partner. Since Servat's job was pretty demanding and kept him pretty busy most of the week, a dating app for him was the way to go. So he went ahead and made an account, hoping this would help him find his match made in heaven. After setting up an online dating account, it took a bit of time before he started talking to someone. After some searching, a woman named Barbara Bienvenue piqued his interest. They began talking, and it didn't take long for Servat to enjoy her company. Servat soon fell for her personality and how he could easily make her laugh. Could Servat have found the one he was looking for? He sure hoped so. Both Servat and Bienvenue believed they had a special connection, or as much of a connection as two 30-somethings can have over the internet. So after virtually talking for some time, they decided to meet in Montreal. Hopefully it wasn't some catfishing scheme, and Bienvenue was actually who she said she was. Well, there was only one way to find out. Servat was going to dive into their meeting head first and with an open mind. Something big was about to happen to the new couple. Keep watching to find out what. Thankfully, Bienvenue was who she said she was. And when Servat first laid eyes on her in Montreal, he knew their bond was something special. The two instantly clicked, constantly dating over the next few weeks. It was safe to say their relationship was developing into something more than an online long-distance romance. Servat fell in love with her, trusting her even though they'd only known each other for a short period. He'd realize soon that there's a reason people don't trust strangers. 2 months into dating, Bienvenue told Servat they needed to have a serious conversation. Honestly, that phrase typically spells trouble for the other party. With that in mind, though, Servat was confused. He thought their relationship was going well, so what could be the issue? Although they were still deciding if the other was the one, Servat didn't think they had any outstanding issues between them. What could Bienvenue possibly want to have a serious talk about? Walking toward him with a big smile on her face, Bienvenue dropped a bomb. She was pregnant. This was not the news Servat was expecting to come out of his new girlfriend's mouth. Frozen, it took Servat a few seconds to digest what she had just said to him. They were going to be parents. He was going to be a father. They were going to start a family together. Then he broke out in a smile of his own. Just a few months ago, Servat was daydreaming about finding someone to spend his life with, having kids and starting a family. Now, his dream was becoming a reality right in front of his eyes. You'd think he'd just won the lottery with how happy he was. And he wasn't the only one thrilled by the news. Servat's friends and family rejoiced, knowing how important this stage in Servat's life was to him. So they threw the happy couple a party and started counting down the days to the birth. Like many in their first trimester, Bienvenue had a rough time adjusting to the many changes happening to her body. She was gaining weight, having mood swings, and was experiencing the worst morning sickness. Being a first-timer himself, Servat was worried for her as well as the baby. So, he insisted she move into his house. That way, his family could help take care of her while he was at work. She agreed, and the two were soon living under the same roof. As the months dragged on, Bienvenue's belly became bigger and bigger. So big, in fact, that the couple was beginning to wonder if there was more than one baby inside. Instead of playing a guessing game, they made a doctor's appointment. There, Bienvenue learned she was pregnant with twins. Servat couldn't believe it. He was excited about one child, but two was even better in his mind. Little did he know that they were about to get more news. The couple wasn't done getting big news. Keep watching to learn what happened next. As Bienvenue continued to go to doctor's appointments, she received more startling news. The mama and babies were healthy, but it looked as though another baby was in the mix. As it turned out, Bienvenue was pregnant with triplets. But that wasn't the end of it. During Bienvenue's final ultrasound, the couple learned that they needed to buy a few more baby things because they were about to be the parents of quintuplets. Servat and Bienvenue were beyond thrilled with the prospect of having a large family. They were also feeling like two of the luckiest people in the world, considering how few women are blessed by becoming pregnant with quintuplets. And since a majority of people they knew with 5 children had started their families back when they were in their 20s, Servat and Bienvenue felt as though they streamlined the entire chapter of their lives. The thing is, it's very expensive to raise 5 children at once, not to mention they were both first-time parents being thrown to the metaphorical sharks with 5 kids on the way. What were they going to do? Servat took it upon himself to figure out how he was going to provide for his new and growing family. He was a man on a mission to protect the people he loved. The good news was Servat had a steady job. The bad news was that the pay was just average and not enough to support 6 other people. He found himself becoming increasingly anxious about money as the due date drew closer and closer. What was he going to do? Luckily, they had a huge support system of friends and family who were willing to pitch in where needed. Even so, they had 5 babies on the way, and that took a lot of preparation. The couple was lucky since they had a great support system to help them with expenses and taking care of the babies. But it was going to take more than a few extra people to help raise quintuplets. With that thought in mind, Servat turned to a friend for help. Together they brainstormed ideas on how to ask for help from non-family members. Servat was out of his element. He wasn't used to asking strangers for help. Together, Servat and his friend thought of something the father-to-be hadn't considered. Social media was making it easier than ever to ask people for help. And with a rare story like Servat and Bienvenue's, they were sure some folks would want to help the couple. It was like a light bulb went off in their heads. They knew what they had to do in order to ask for help raising the quintuplets over the internet. Finally, all their ideas formed a solid game plan, starting with Servat asking friends, family, and coworkers to spread his and his girlfriend's story. Then the father-to-be created a Facebook page. There, he shared the story of Bienvenue and the quintuplets' progress. He even went as far as asking for professional and personal sponsorships, in hopes of getting supplies such as diapers, blankets, bottles, and cribs. He could only hope the word would spread. People were eager to help the couple, but no one expected what would happen. Keep watching to find out more. After some time, it was obvious that the community was all too eager to help, with local businesses wanting to support the soon-to-be parents. The couple was over the moon that they didn't need to focus on money and baby things anymore. Instead, they could focus on a healthy pregnancy. Of course, when gifts came in, Servat was sure to post a warm thank you to his Facebook page, along with updates on the pregnancy. Servat was the happiest he'd been in his entire life. He had a woman he loved, and they were about to start a family together. And his parents were excited to have grandkids. In fact, Servat's family all did their best to make sure Bienvenue had the smoothest pregnancy possible. His mother would often stay home to help her around the house, taking care of anything Bienvenue needed. It wasn't easy to do daily tasks with her large belly, after all. Bienvenue was beyond grateful to the Servat family. She even told the father-to-be that he could pick all 5 of the baby names. To say that Servat was ecstatic at the notion would be an understatement. The pregnancy was going so well, and the two couldn't wait until the day they'd meet their babies. Unfortunately, everything came crashing down the day Bienvenue went into labor, and everything Servat had been looking forward to was taken away. When the 34th week of Bienvenue's pregnancy hit, her water broke. Since Servat had read on what to do when this day came, he knew what to do: stay calm and grab their overnight bag for the hospital. Their friends and family met the couple at the hospital. There, everyone eagerly waited to meet the newest additions to the family. It was the happiest day of Servat's life. Too bad things weren't going to end as planned. Servat paced the waiting room, waiting for doctors to deliver the news that the quintuplets were all healthy and happy with their mother. It was the best day of Servat's life. But he was getting antsy. He just had to keep telling himself that soon he'd be holding his children while his girlfriend peacefully rested in the hospital bed. But then the doctor came out, and Servat knew right away that something had gone wrong. When the doctor walked out to the waiting room, Servat noticed he didn't look nearly as happy as he should. Instead, he looked confused. With Servat's family surrounding him, they were waiting to hear whatever the doctor had to say. Little did they know that the news was going to change everything. After a few moments, the doctor asked to speak to Servat in private. This couldn't be good, but Servat agreed. The doctor told Servat that his confusion started right when Bienvenue was first admitted to the hospital. He couldn't find one record of her pregnancy. There were no tests, blood work, sonograms, or even doctors and nurses who could confirm her pregnancy. But that couldn't be right, as Servat and his family had always dropped her off at appointments. The doctor went on to explain that because they couldn't find records, they had to order a blood test, and the results shocked everyone. That's when the doctor dropped a huge bomb. Bienvenue wasn't actually pregnant. There were no babies. Servat didn't want to believe him. After all, he helped his girlfriend with her pregnancy every step of the way. This had to be some kind of mistake. In a later interview, Servat said, "The doctors told me it was a phantom pregnancy." His world quickly crumbled around him. All the plans he had made were no longer important. Someone thought the pregnancy was fishy from the get-go. Unfortunately, a phantom pregnancy gives a woman all the symptoms of an actual pregnancy. Servat had no reason not to believe his girlfriend wasn't carrying quintuplets. She had horrible morning sickness, her belly grew, and she even started lactating. But while Servat didn't catch on to anything abnormal, one of his friends did. Genevieve Laflemme recently gave birth to triplets and found it weird how active Bienvenue was in her last trimester. She believed Bienvenue knew she wasn't pregnant. When Laflemme finally told Servat that she believed Bienvenue knew she wasn't pregnant, other weird events started to fall in place. First, Servat never went to any of her doctor's appointments, and each time Bienvenue returned, the number of babies grew. It seemed more and more likely that Bienvenue lied about the entire thing. It was even worse because the doctors were beginning to agree. It was then that Servat remembered something strange about his girlfriend's past. Servat remembered Bienvenue never talked about her family, nor did he ever ask. He wanted to respect her silence on the matter, but Servat was done being quiet. He wanted answers, especially once the news hit the local papers and he got a message from one of her relatives. He told Servat, "This isn't the first time she's done it, but honestly, we never would have thought she was sick enough to do it again." All Servat could do was release a statement apologizing for Bienvenue's con. As it turned out, her pregnancies are just a way for her to raise funds for herself. Servat was heartbroken, as was his family. Today, he just wants to move on with a quiet life. As for Bienvenue, her family finally had an intervention and convinced her to seek professional help in a mental institution. She's receiving care for her actions, and hopefully she'll never get a chance to con another man again.